All right, very interesting interview here with Tyson Fury and Fury's brother, Shane. Because the interviewer on IFL asked Shane about the situation with Eddie Hearn. Because several months ago, Tyson Fury was talking to a few different promoters with regards to signing for his comeback. And one of the promoters he was talking to was Eddie Hearn. And remember, around this time, Tyson Fury was saying that he could fight and beat Anthony Joshua in his first comeback fight. But when he met Eddie Hearn, according to Fury was interested in taking on soft touches for his comeback fights. Hearn wanted him to fight Travis Kaufman, then either Dylan White or Tony Bellew, and then eventually Anthony Joshua. That's what he wanted him to do. He wanted to pretty much fast track him back to the Joshua fight. Fast track him into the Joshua fight. Interestingly, in this interview, the interviewer asks him, were there any terms? What were the terms for the Joshua fight? For this 3 or 4 fight deal that Hearn was proposing to you. And Tyson Fury said there were no terms because Anthony Joshua makes the decision in terms of the terms. So Eddie Hearn can't make terms without consulting with Joshua, which goes against what Tyson Fury and many other people have been saying about Joshua, that Joshua's just a puppet. And he has no say-so about the terms and the contracts and all this kind of stuff. It's all just completely handled by Hearn. And look, I'm open to that possibility too, that Anthony Joshua has minimal input. But maybe I'm, barking up the wrong tree. Maybe other people are barking up the wrong tree, and actually Anthony Joshua does have a lot of input. But that's what Tyson Fury said here. Now, Tyson Fury, when asked previously, and he's a walking contradiction. Fury will contradict himself from sentence to sentence. But when asked here about why he didn't sign with Eddie Hearn and the reasons that Eddie Hearn gave, because Hearn said Fury wanted easy touches, Fury's brother Shane straight away jumps in and confirms that basically what Eddie Hearn was saying was true. That Tyson Fury didn't want to go straight in and face a Dylan White or a Tony Bellew in his first comeback fight. He didn't really want to do that, at least not for the money that Eddie Hearn was offering him. Because that's what Shane does say. He says Tyson didn't want to take on those kind of opponents, tough opponents, without being paid properly. And the money that Eddie Hearn was offering was not good enough money for fights that are that tough. That's what Shane was saying. Okay? So there you have it. That's the definitive answer. Shane said he was privy to those conversations, to that conversation. He heard the conversation. That's what he says in this interview. Tyson Fury doesn't refute what his brother Shane says about it. So Tyson did want easy comeback fights. And one thing that Shane says here, which is a very, very good point, is that when Tyson was talking to Eddie Hearn with regards to making a deal, Tyson didn't know, because at the time when he was talking to Eddie Hearn, he was still well overweight. He didn't know how quickly he'd be able to get back in shape. He didn't know how he'd be feeling after his first comeback fight or his second comeback fight. So how could he possibly commit to fighting a Dylan White and then a Bellew and, Josh? How could he commit to that when he was unsure about where he would actually be physically and mentally in a couple of months' time? Do you understand? So I've got no problem with Tyson Fury turning down Eddie Hearn's offer. No problem at all. It's just that Tyson Fury does himself no favors by then coming out and saying, I would fight Joshua in my first comeback fight. It's like, what? You wanted soft touches for your first few comeback fights. That's why you've got soft touches in Sefer Safiri and Pianetta. That's what you wanted. So don't act like you would have taken on Joshua in your first comeback fight. You wouldn't have. You were taking on soft touches. That's what you're doing. See, that's where he does himself no favors. But I've spoken about this next thing I'm going to talk about in a second. I've spoken about this before in previous videos. And that is the fact that Eddie Hearn seemed to be in such a rush to put Tyson Fury in with stiff competition. Why is that? I do find that a little dubious. You know, that Eddie Hearn would want to put Tyson Fury in with such tough opposition, people like Dillian Whyte and Tony Bellew, when he knows Tyson Fury is coming back from depression, alcohol problems, drug problems, and a very long layoff, and having to lose an enormous amount of weight. If you're signing Tyson Fury and you want to put him in those kind of fights right away, do you really have his best interests at heart? You look at Eddie Hearn with Amir Khan, for example. Khan isn't coming back from being, 10 stone or whatever it was, 100-pound overweight, 7 stone overweight. Khan's not coming back from that. Khan is not coming back from, well, let me not say Khan is not coming back from drink and drug problems. Right? Let me not say that. I'm not saying he is or he isn't, but he's not ostensibly coming back from as much difficulty as Tyson Fury's coming back from. But yet, Eddie Hearn has got no problem putting Amir Khan in the ring with less than stellar opposition for his first few comeback fights. He's not pressuring Khan into fighting top 10 guys right away. So why, when he was offering a deal to Tyson Fury, was he so insistent that Tyson Fury fights these top tier guys immediately? That's a little off to me. That to me just seems like he doesn't really have, or didn't really have, Tyson Fury's best interests at heart. Tyson Fury in this interview says that Eddie Hearn signs people so he can sideline them. That's what Jarrell Miller accused Eddie Hearn of doing when Hearn signed Luis Ortiz. And then, the guy, Jarrell Miller, who accused Eddie Hearn of doing that, has signed up to fight on Eddie Hearn's platform now, DAZN. So now Jarrell Miller is, I guess, signed up to be sidelined too. And Jarrell Miller has kind of been sidelined. Whether it's coincidentally or whether it's intentionally, I'll leave that up to you guys to discuss and debate. But we know that Joshua had to fight Povetkin, so there was no way he could have put the Povetkin fight off to fight Miller. He had to fight Povetkin. And then, as well as the Povetkin situation, we know that he's trying to fight Wilder. He's made Wilder an offer, right? Or several offers. So those are the points of focus for Anthony Joshua right now, not really Jarrell Miller. But if the Wilder fight maybe had been turned down earlier, perhaps he could have fit in 2 fights in 2018, and maybe Miller could have been one of them. But at the moment, yeah, Miller appears to have been sidelined in the Anthony Joshua sweepstakes. Let's just put it that way. And perhaps that is what Eddie Hearn did with Luis Ortiz. Did he sideline him when he had him to keep him away from Anthony Joshua? Tyson Fury says that Dillian Whyte has also been sidelined. Has he? I don't think Dillian Whyte has been sidelined. I think Dillian Whyte versus Anthony Joshua could happen anytime. It's a win-win for Eddie Hearn because he's now building Dillian Whyte up into a name in his own right in the UK. Dillian Whyte is now fighting on pay-per-view, headlining pay-per-views as the main attraction, filling out arenas. So at this point, I don't see why Eddie Hearn would want to sideline Dillian Whyte from an Anthony Joshua fight. It doesn't make any sense why he would. You put them in the ring together. If Joshua loses, they do a rematch. I'm sure there'll be a rematch clause in Joshua's favor. They run it back. So have a watch of this interview. It's pretty interesting. Shane Fury talks very candidly. Sometimes Shane Fury almost comes across a bit like Peter Fury in the sense that he's a very straight shooter. He talks very straight. And sometimes he may be he's a bit too much of a straight shooter for Tyson's liking at times. I get that impression. Not like there's any kind of tension between them. I'm sure there isn't. I'm sure they're, best buddies as well as brothers. But Tyson likes to play games a lot with the stuff that he says. He likes to mess around and say this and say that and say the other and contradict himself from sentence to sentence. Whereas you don't really get that from Shane. He tends to be a straight shooter. Most of the time I've heard him speak, he talks very straight. There's no real messing around with him. He's just talking straight. And that's how Peter Fury used to be as well. Just a straight shooter, just talking straight down the line. At least with regards to Tyson, at least with regards to, most things. When it comes to his son, Huey, maybe not so much, but for everybody else it is. And I just want to finish on this because, I'm being objective here, people. I've been critical of Tyson Fury to some extent in this video. I've also been critical of Eddie Hearn to some extent in this video. And I have to bring it back round to Tyson Fury again because people tend to see this heavyweight picture in black and white, right? They've got the bad guy on one side, Anthony Joshua. This is how a lot of Wilder fans and Fury fans see it. The bad guy is Joshua and Hearn. Those are the bad guys. Then you've got the good guy in Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder, depending on which fighter you support. That's how they see it. They see Fury as being incapable of being dishonest, incapable of losing to any of these guys. That's how they see Wilder too. Is that realistic? I mean, even Frank Warren, just because of the fact that he has now signed Tyson Fury, people are acting as though Frank Warren is a straight shooter. Like Frank Warren is incapable of dishonesty. Everything that he says should be believed. This is how people are carrying on now with Frank Warren. That is the most absurd thing. Above all other things that are absurd in this situation, it's people acting like Frank Warren is incapable of being dishonest. Like Frank Warren is objective. Yeah, right. And on the subject of promoters, Tyson Fury said many times that he would be with Mick Hennessy until the end of his career. Mick Hennessy came out in several interviews talking about how loyal Tyson Fury was and Tyson's amazing. He promised me he'd be with me till the end. He started his career with me and he'll be with me to the end. All this kind of stuff. Well, what happened to that? What happened to Tyson Fury's famed loyalty? Maybe it's a situation where Tyson Fury felt betrayed by Mick Hennessy. I don't know. I'm not an insider. But I do remember the Instagram post that Tyson Fury put up. Or was it Peter Fury? I don't know. One of the Fury team members put up a picture on Instagram of Mick Hennessy and I think Peter Fury in the Haymaker gym. And Tyson Fury commented on it and said, in bed with the enemy, not good and not loyal and all this kind of stuff. And at the time, people assumed that Tyson Fury was just messing around, a lot of people. But when something is written on Instagram, on social media, it's hard to tell whether it's serious or not sometimes because you can't see the person's face saying it. You don't know whether they're saying it with a smile on their face, tongue in cheek and a twinkle in their eye. You don't know whether they're doing it like that. So it was impossible to tell whether Tyson Fury was being serious or not. But given the fact that he's now no longer with Mick Hennessy and he's also ditched his uncle, Peter Fury, as his trainer, you now have to look back and wonder whether actually that incident with Peter and Mick going into the Haymaker gym is what caused Tyson Fury to separate himself from them. Again, I'm not an insider, so I do not know. But, that has to be said. And, if it's a situation where Tyson Fury feels betrayed by those two guys, what does that say about the fans of the Fury team who, when Tyson Fury was still with Mick Hennessy, they were acting as though Mick Hennessy could walk on water and do no wrong. Same with Peter Fury. And I'm not even criticizing those guys. What I'm criticizing here is the attitude that a lot of Fury fans have towards Fury and whoever Fury's working with at the time. As far as they're concerned, they're good guys and it's impossible for them to do anything bad. They can't be critiqued. This is the attitude, which is not a realistic way of thinking. Nobody's infallible. Nobody is incapable of dishonesty. That goes for Tyson Fury, it goes for Eddie Hearn, it goes for Anthony Joshua, and it certainly goes for Deontay Wilder and particularly Shelly Finkel. Jeez, are you kidding me? Shelly Finkel, yeah, he is the epitome of honesty and decency, isn't he, Shelly Finkel? Jesus, people. All right, I'm going to leave it right here, but I do recommend this particular interview with the straight shooter, Shane Fury. I keep nearly saying Shane McGuigan. I hope I haven't said it in this video, but in my mind, I keep on having to stop myself saying Shane McGuigan. Because he's the #1 Shane in boxing, right? Now that Shane Mosley is retired, Shane McGuigan. So yeah, Shane Fury, very straight shooting guy. Interesting what he says here in this particular interview. It's more interesting listening to Shane talk in this interview than it is Tyson. Because Tyson always likes to mess around and say things for the cameras and say things for, you know, a particular reason when he's trying to push a certain narrative. Whereas Shane, obviously he's going to have a certain amount of bias in favor of his brother, but there's less fun and games with Shane and more straight talking. So I appreciate that. Anyway, have a watch of the interview. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.